Welcome back to the Hots. Today we're doing another city review. We are going to be doing Toronto, Canada.
Yeah, so we're gonna be doing Toronto, Canada. We went there when we went to Niagara Falls. So we want to rate this city because we felt like it had a lot of different things that we could talk about and things that we can explore. So we're gonna be rating this city again on 3 different categories. 1, which is things to do. 2, which is the food they had. And 3, which is the overall atmosphere.
First, we have things to do. So in that category, we have price, quantity of places, and fun things.
So we're gonna be talking about all these things in our rating and why we rated them that way. One of the biggest things in Toronto that we feel is the Sky Needle. As you can see in all of the pictures on Drake's album cover, the Sky Needle is very, very prevalent. Going up in that Sky Needle, you can see an entire view of all of Toronto and even farther out. The Sky Needle had a lot of different views. You could see a lot of different things. There are even some restaurants in there. So definitely something you wanna check out when you're in Toronto, Canada.
So speaking of Drake,
Gonna get me in trouble.
when we were in Toronto, we actually drove past Drake's mansion. At least we think it's Drake's mansion. I mean, it's marked on Google Maps as his mansion. We drove past it. There was a bunch of cars there. Obviously, we couldn't see too well. It was kind of gated off. There was super high bushes blocking it so you can't see anything. But we could see through one of the gate doors and we could see a lot of cars. It was pretty cool experience.
All of the houses in that area are huge, so I think it's definitely worth driving through that section just to begin with anyways, because you'll see so many cool houses, so many modern houses, older houses, and they're just all really, really big. It's marked on Google Maps as Drake's mansion. That's why we thought it was Drake's mansion, and I'm gonna believe it's Drake's mansion because it was pretty big. One of the next things that we saw when you're in Toronto, you can go to Niagara Falls, which is only about 2 hours away, and I would definitely check out Niagara Falls. That has amazing views, amazing scenery, and is unlike no other waterfall you've ever seen.
With Niagara Falls, there's a whole strip area down there as well. They have different rides that you can ride. There's a whole Ferris wheel, different mini golfs. They have a ton of places to eat down there. It's a really cool experience. It's not just the New York side of Niagara Falls where there's not really much to do. There's a whole area. You could spend pretty much all day down at the strip on Niagara Falls because there's so many different things. There's wax hands you can make. There's different souvenir shops, a bunch of things.
Yeah, I know that's a different place than Toronto, but it's definitely a shorter drive to be able to get there. One of the other things we did in Toronto specifically was an escape room, and I love doing escape rooms. I like to do escape rooms in every city I go to. This one specifically had a Tomb Raider, and I did it with 8 of my friends, and it was really, really awesome. We ended up getting out with 5 minutes to spare. Escape rooms are really, really popular in bigger cities, and a lot of them are really well thought out. I definitely think you should check that out if you're going to Toronto. Check out an escape room.
When we were in Toronto, we went to a really huge mall. I don't remember the name of it. We'll have to look it up and we can insert it in here. So we went to this really huge mall. There was a ton of stores there.
Yeah, we really just walked around the mall. It was a lot of different things to do, specifically a Funko Pop shop, which me and my other friend Tyler are very interested in. So that was one of the things we did. And then outside of all that, the Toronto Raptors are located there in Toronto. So we didn't get to see a game. We thought about it. We never ended up going, but their stadium is huge. And definitely if you have a chance when you're in Toronto, go check out the Raptors in their stadium.
Overall, my rating for things to do in Toronto would probably be a 6 out of 10. I felt like there was enough to do, but I still felt like at some moments we were well, what do we want to do next?
I agree. I'm gonna go ahead and give Toronto a 6 out of 10 on the things to do chart, just because I felt like there wasn't necessarily anything that wowed me. It was like a lot of other cities, and that's okay, but if you want to get a high rating on this list, you got to be extraordinary. Transitioning into our next period, we've got our food. Me and Jordan are gonna talk a little bit about the food in Toronto, and we're gonna rate this based on the taste, price, and quantity / being exotic.
Okay, so in Toronto, we actually ended up going to one of the pizza shops out there. It was like a restaurant, an actual sit-down restaurant. We went there, all of us and our friends, and I would say the food was not that good. I know our one friends, they weren't really happy with their pizza. It was kind of cold and bland, and it really was dry. I just think that there wasn't anything special about it, and it kind of was just overhyped and it ended up coming out really underwhelming. So I would say that place wasn't that great. We also went to another like pasta Italian kind of restaurant, and the food was okay, but we waited a really long time for the service. The food took forever. Everything was it took a really long time. I don't think the service we were given was that great. The food was okay, but it definitely wasn't worth the price that it was.
I agree.
I think the only like okay food we had was when we ate at the mall. Our food was like okay,
right,
but even still, like, it wasn't anything great, and also, it was mall food. Yeah, overall, nothing really there was that good.
So my food rating for Toronto is going to be a 4 out of 10, unfortunately.
Yeah, I would give it a 5 out of 10. All right, so last on our list we have is the atmosphere. So this includes safety, transportation, views, people, and the weather.
So starting us off, there immediately when we cross the border from the US to Canada, you can tell that there's different driving laws, there are different speeds. You're going in kilometers rather than miles, which is interesting as far as how we're normally used to driving, because it's kind of hard to gauge how fast you're actually going. The car we had didn't automatically transition over, so we had to adjust that and then work on that. So that was a challenge we had to navigate.
As far as our safety, I think for the most part, we felt relatively safe where we were. We didn't have any issues. Even the place we stayed at was pretty nice, pretty safe, in a good neighborhood. So we didn't really deal with any safety issues.
I also feel like public transportation could be an option. The busing system there was relatively good, especially in Toronto, in the Niagara area, both of them. So you could definitely get away with using public transportation or Ubers if you had to. Of course, I'm always for renting a car so you can go wherever you want, whenever you want. For us, we just drove right over the border, so we already had our cars. Very, very easy. But outside of that, another thing I want to talk about is the views in Toronto. Like I said, from the Sky Needle, and then just in general, in Toronto, the Niagara area, everywhere, the views are awesome. I mean, it's like a winter wonderland almost, especially when we went.
As far as weather, I would say it was very cold there. I mean, we went mid-winter in November, so really it was kind of like obviously our fault. We went during the cold, but that's just what worked out timeline-wise for us. But yeah, it was very cold. It was still fun though to walk outside and see the falls and even just walk around Toronto. Obviously, probably more recommended to go during the spring and summer, so it's a lot warmer and more comfortable. That was the only kind of drawback we had, was just it was really cold.
And either way, you can go during a warmer time, so don't really take that into account, but it does get cold in the winter months over there in Toronto, so make sure you note that if you plan on going in one of those colder months. My atmosphere rating for Toronto is going to be an 8 out of 10. I thought I had a great atmosphere along with great views, and the driving wasn't that bad there.
Yeah, I would have to agree. I would give it an 8 out of 10 as well.
So coming up on our final rating for Toronto, Canada, we're going to give Toronto a 6 out of 10. Of course, I'd love to give it higher, but I just felt like there weren't that many things to do. And then on top of that, the food really, really messed us up as far as the rating, because we felt like we didn't get that great of service. We also felt like we didn't get that great of quality food when we were there. So that really brought our ratings down. But just from an atmospheric standpoint, obviously that would be higher, but we're gonna have to leave it at a 6 for the moment.
Yeah, I would say it's still a good place to check out, and definitely if you've never been there, put it on your bucket list. Go see Toronto, go see Niagara Falls, but just a heads up about certain things like the food. You really gotta probably search and find that good food there.
Right, and you probably don't need more than 2 days in Toronto. You can explore the whole city in about 2 to 3 days, and you'll know everything and have everything under your belt by that point. Thanks for hearing our city review on Toronto. This was The Hots. Check us back for another one. We'll see ya.